Trump is asking to establish a physical wall and other barriers. So the return of the wall, deterring and preventing entry of illegal aliens into the United States, detaining aliens apprehended on suspicion of violating federal or state law until such time as they are removed, removing aliens who remain or enter in violation of federal law, pursuing criminal charges against illegal aliens who violate the immigration laws, cooperating fully with the state and local law enforcement officials in this process, and obtaining operational control of the borders. And then there was this separate order that is about sending a military unit to the southern border to quote unquote seal off the border. What do you think are realistically, the practical short term effects of these orders going to look like?
Right now, what we understand is happening is that most people who come to the US Mexico border are being put into Border Patrol facilities, so short term holding stations at the border. They're not being released into the United States, pending their immigration court case. Some of them may be transferred to longer term immigrant detention, but many of them are going to be in those stations until either they're removed from the country or it's unclear what else. We're kind of in a short term response mode.
Mm,
People who are coming from Mexico and from a limited other set of countries may be returned very quickly to Mexico, but of course, it's up to Mexico who they want to accept back. So it's impossible to achieve quote operational control at the border. That's been said in the past. It's not a defined term. It's really difficult to keep up with the number of arrivals. Right now, the number of arrivals is really low. We've seen that whenever there's been a change in policy or a change in administration, sometimes there's sort of a wait and see period where migrants
right.
are kind of watching, like they want to see how other migrants fare and understand what the new policies are before they attempt their crossing. And there are a lot of people waiting in Mexico right now. So the numbers could increase. But over the past week, we've seen um, that we're in a situation where the numbers are low. People are being held in CBP, Customs and Border Protection facilities, and aren't being released into the country. A complicating factor for anyone who's trying to manage the border is the fact that under our law, anyone who's on US soil has the right to ask for protection, for asylum in the United States. We've seen various administrations try to get around this because that seems to be a pull factor. At least it's a law that prevents people from being quickly removed from the United States. And we're seeing the current Trump administration say that people aren't going to be able to access asylum at the border. That's going to face litigation, just like President Biden's moves on asylum at the border face litigation. So there's a lot that remains to be seen. We just can only see the short term first week response right now.
So I'm curious about two things. The first is, could you define sort of like what right now means? I think for people who are really steeped in the policy here versus people who are steeped in the news cycle, we might be envisioning different things. But what sort of time period are we talking about?
Yeah, so the number of people coming to the border started to fall, especially last summer. That was based on a combination of new rules that the Biden administration put in place, making it harder to seek humanitarian protection at the border. The other big factor was that Mexico has been ramping up its immigration enforcement. It's been stopping people along the northward journey. It's been deporting people or busing people who are in northern Mexico to southern Mexico, slowing down their journey. So the number of border arrivals had been falling. It's fallen even more since President Trump took office last week.
Hmm.
And we've
Well,
seen the first week of his border response, but we don't know how that's going to work in the longer term.
the other thing I'm really curious about, because I mean, I think in general, the temperature is turned up so high on this issue. So I'm really interested in almost approaching things a little bit more politically agnostically and sort of just considering like what exactly are the facts at hand. But I was wondering whether you could describe almost what life looks like for somebody who's waiting for their CBP1 appointment or waiting to make their asylum claim, but somebody maybe from, some part of the Northern Triangle, somewhere else in Central America, who's just waiting in Mexico, in Tijuana or Ciudad Juarez, trying to cross the border right now. Like, could you tell me, like, do you have a sense of what's a day in the life or what is a month in the life for these people?
Yeah, we know lots of people had been waiting in Mexico to make a CBP1 appointment. That's an appointment that allowed them to come in at a legal crossing point along the border with an appointment with advanced coordination with the US government to be paroled into the United States. So let into the United States with a temporary legal status. That CBP1 process ended at noon on Inauguration Day. So it is gone. People were often waiting months in Mexico for those appointments. They may or may not have had the ability to work legally in Mexico. They may or may not have had stable housing or have been living in shelters run by nonprofits or by the government. They may have been in cities where things were secure, or they may have been in cities where cartels and gangs were prevalent and seeking to kidnap migrants and see if they could get money out of any relatives in the United States. So the situations, I think, varied a lot. We know that many people are not safe or secure in Mexico, but they wanted to come to the United States the right way. The US government had told them that making this appointment through CBP1 was the right way to come. They wanted to come with legal status, and so they were willing to wait. Now that those appointments aren't available, the question is whether people will keep waiting in Mexico to see what comes next, whether they'll try to see if they could get in at a port of entry. We don't know. Right now, it doesn't sound like people are being allowed in to present their asylum claims there, or whether they'll pay a smuggler to smuggle them across the border into the United States illegally. Right now, I think a lot of people who are in Mexico are just on pause, but what comes next, is unclear.
Hey, that was a clip from Just Asking Questions. You can watch another one here or the full episode here. And please subscribe to our brand new channel to get us started off right and be notified when new episodes or clips go up. Thanks for watching.